Welcome to Intermediate Greek. We will be using Kostenberger, Merkel, and Plummer throughout the year, and I trust that you have that at your side as we begin to look through the elements of the history of the Greek language, and we think about textual criticism and evaluating texts and understanding the New Testament better. This course will be so helpful for you, literally life-changing, ministry advancing, and I am grateful that you have taken this step. My goal in these video presentations is to help you understand the material as if you were in a traditional classroom. These video presentations will be anywhere from 15 to 20 minutes long normally. I will be interacting with Kostenberger, Merkel, and Plummer. If I say KMP, understand that's the textbook that I am referencing. And I'm also going to help you to look at the New Testament, especially the book of Colossians, as you've already seen in the course map and the course syllabus. Let me launch us this course and this particular lecture with prayer. Lord, strengthen students as they engage your word, give them encouragement. There are a number of new concepts that we will cover today, and we pray that you will be gracious to us as we look at these and come back to them in the weeks and months ahead. Use your word to impact us and to impact those we teach. Advance your kingdom through this time, this course. We ask in your Son's name. Amen. I am trusting that you have already looked at the history of Greek language in KMP and thought about the form of language and the dates, the changes from classical Greek to the Koine period. Those ideas are important. I am not going to give attention to them here, but I do want you to just generally be familiar with them. I want to begin thinking with you about textual criticism. That is not the criticism of the Bible in terms of degrading it, but in scholarship, textual criticism is understood to be analysis of texts, comparing them and contrasting them. And that's what we are going to be doing here today a bit and throughout the term. I am happy that KMP begins with some ideas about textual criticism, and we will be looking at these ancient manuscripts many times throughout this year in these slideshows. So we begin with the text critical criteria, and they're internal and external. We begin with external, and when we think about external criteria, we think about the actual manuscripts themselves. And there's a tendency to favor the older manuscripts. Can you think of why that would be? Yes, older would be more likely to be original, if you will. The older, the better. We want the nearest source. We also favor the reading that's supported by the majority of manuscripts after that. Obviously, the democratic principles that we would understand just in common life, somewhat true with textual criticism as well. There's strength in numbers. And then favor the reading that is best attested across manuscript families. When we think about manuscript families, we think about groupings of texts geographically, and KMP has a little map for you there with the Alexandrian, Caesarean, Byzantine, Western families of texts, and that is the location that those texts are thought to be produced at. And that is a categorization based upon handwriting and familiarity or affiliation one with another. So geographic diversity is what we're thinking about in that third criteria. If a text is well represented across geography. And then internal criteria. After we do the external work and comparison, we turn inside and we favor the reading that best fits literary context, the reading that corresponds with that same author, broadening our horizons a bit, and then the reading that best explains the origin of the other variants. And this is a key concept right here. The reading that best explains the others. That is the explanatory reading. What variant could logically account for others being produced? Then, what reading is the shorter reading? It's likely the case that scribes would add to in trying to explain as opposed to take away from. And then finally, the more difficult reading. And this is something that is often not understood. Text critics choose the more difficult reading as likely original or likely explanatory as opposed to the one that makes the most sense. In a sense, then we stack the deck against ourselves. The more difficult reading is assumed to be the one that is most likely original, and from there we have to think about why a scribe would say that. In other words, we are trying to stack the deck against a human tendency to commit intentional errors as we progress down the list. We'll talk about these various errors. Unintentional in just a moment, but I mentioned intentional. A scribe who is trying to harmonize, or a scribe who is trying to make a theological doctrinal change would add more words and would harmonize, and we want to choose the reading that is shortest and most difficult, assuming that scribes might commit intentional errors. Let's think about unintentional errors for a few moments. These are the most common. Errors of sight. A scribe would glance back and forth between manuscripts, and just as today, if we were to tell a student to copy Colossians is going to be the locus of this course, copy Colossians word for word perfectly, you have X amount of time to do it. Even if we gave several hours, likely there would be errors. How much more so in the ancient world? Perhaps darker rooms, more difficult circumstances, and you can imagine there are a couple of common errors of sight. One is haplography, the other dittography. Haplography is when a word or phrase is written once and it should have been written twice. Or dittography, it was written twice, should have been written once. And this again common if you're looking up and copying. You may rewrite a word when you should have just written it once, or you wrote it twice, or you wrote it once and it should have been written twice, just failure of sight. Errors of hearing, if it's a verbalization where one speaker is in a room of scribes, which we know happened, and several scribes are writing down that speaker's words, could be a mistake. Errors of writing, errors of judgment as well. We need to think for a few moments, closing this pane, about the actual material in NA 28. This is pages 56 to 57, so if you want to grab your actual Greek text, a couple of notes here in the critical signs. I would encourage you, as KMP does, to go back and look at your text critical introduction. Would be especially helpful. A couple of notes here. This little circle, the word following that circle is omitted in the witnesses that are cited there. It's not there, and that's the symbol for it. This square, the words, clauses, or sentences between those two signs are omitted. So one word or a grouping of words. This little small bracket, the word following in the text is replaced by one or more words. Want to slide over, and just a couple of other notes. The words between these two are replaced by other words, and you look down below. You'll want to just come back to these ideas here. I'm going to demonstrate some in Colossians in a few moments. This small T marker, words are inserted. So those are some of the basics. Again, that's pages 56 and 57 in Nessalon 28. Pages 58 to 59, a few more changes. Word order is changed, and those words are represented by numerals here. I want to show just for a moment as well the idea of a correction. There's an asterisk, identifies the original reading. When a correction has been made, that C denotes a correction. And then 1, 2, 3, if the manuscript seems to have been corrected one time or multiple times, and then that can be known in the sequence of generations of correctors. I want to note just these symbols for a moment. This Aleph, the Hebrew letter, is representing the manuscript Sinaiticus. It is O1 in the list, B Vaticanus, O3, C, O4, and we are omitting here Alexandrinus, which is O2. We'll come back to that. It's represented by an A. These O manuscripts are majuscules. They are, and we'll see these in just a couple of moments, all caps, no spaces, larger lettering manuscripts, often on parchment, and they are differentiated in the apparatus from minuscules, which come later, and they are a cursive script. And over time, the cursive script begins to dominate. There are many more minuscules than uncials or majuscules here, represented by the O first, the 0. The minuscules, Arabic numerals that do not begin with the letter O. All that being said, let's think for a few moments about textual criticism. And here I have my Greek text before you. Turn to yours. We'll talk this year about the color scheme and the marking scheme in my Greek text, but I trust that this will not be too much of a distraction today. I want to think with you about a couple of, in fact, 3 text critical issues in Colossians chapter 1. We begin with chapter 1 and verse 7. So we are diving right into KMP, the issues of textual criticism, and Colossians. Feel free to pause the video at some point if you would need to. Make sure you have your text before you and give due attention to what we're looking at. We're here in verse 7, and I want us to think about this word right here, this humon. Kathos emathete apaphro to agapetu sundulu hemon. As you learned emathete, aorist indicative from Epaphras, to agapetu sundulu hemon, our beloved fellow slave, our hemon, not yours, ours, chas estin pistos huper humon diakonos to Christu. Who is relative, who is adjective here, pistos diakonos. Pistos modifying diakonos. He is a minister, he's a faith minister. Huper humon. Verse 7. Well, if we notice that that little bracket is represented down here in verse 7, this is the critical apparatus, and here we have a small bracket, Hamon, not faithful minister in behalf of humon, you, but in behalf of us. This mark separates the various changes or readings. Here in Chi there's an insertion, but here in still in verse 7 this mark changes to a new text critical issue, and here Hamon in some manuscripts instead of humon. And you can see the manuscripts that have Hamon, P46, Sinaiticus, Alexandrinus, Vaticanus, the text Sinaiticus, a second corrector, and then some other manuscripts, including the majority of manuscripts, have humon. Well, let's go and look at some of those, and we can do that online. I've pulled up here several websites, excuse me, in sequence, and we begin with P46. This manuscript here, the Center of Study of New Testament Manuscripts, P46, one of the Chester Beatty papyri, and this is a great website for you, but you can see here P46 has Hamon, and I can show you that here as we look through. Has, Eston, Pistos, Huper, right here again, this is all caps, Huper, Hamon, not Humon, but Hey, Eta right here, Eta, Mu, Omicron, Nu, Hamon. We go to Vaticanus, and one of the things that we recognize is that P46 and Vaticanus have similar readings in many places, and here as well. They both have Hamon. So we go to Vaticanus, and here Pistos. Let me find exactly. Huper here. Hamon, not Humon, but the Eta. You can see Pistos, Huper, Hamon. We go to Sinaiticus, and Has, Eston, Pistos, Huper, and here notice that there is a correction that has been made. Hamon is seen underneath. You can see the Eta, but Huper is there, and it's been corrected, and you can notice that in Sinaiticus there down in your textual apparatus. Again, to call our attention, P46, the correction, and B we looked at here. The second corrector, it looks like, moved back to Humon, and you can see that here. See the harder Hu there. Looks like an English Y. Time is moving on. I want to look at a couple of other text critical issues just very quickly. Let me drop this down, and we will come to chapter 1 and verse 20 of Colossians. A couple of text critical issues to note here. Verse 20. I want to notice here D autou and its various witnesses. You can see Sinaiticus, or rather Vaticanus, it has been eliminated. You see the box there, it's gone, but the text P46 and Sinaiticus have it. This is a rare instance when P46 and B don't agree. And this is text criticism. You're doing textual criticism right now, early in class. This is what we're doing. I'm going to go then to P46 and look with you at Colossians 1:20. And right here, a couple of interesting notes. Here we have hymetos, the English letter C is the sigma, to stou. This STOU is actually a nomina sacra. It's one of the instances of an abbreviation of certain key Christian terms, and cross became one of them. Hymetos, stau, and then we have D autou. The D is included here in P46, D autou. And you can see that in your critical apparatus Vaticanus. Our text critical apparatus says that Vaticanus B also actually has D out 2, and we can see that here. Dia to Hymetos to Stauru au 2 right here, au 2 ate. No D, but it does have au 2, and no D au 2 omitted in Vaticanus. If you look down with me right here, the omission, and the omission of this phrase, and we can note that right here. Hymetos to Stauru au 2, no D out 2. Let's move on just quickly to the last text critical apparatus note that I wish to look with you at. Verse 22, Nuni de apakatalexen entosomati te sarkasatu. Nuni de apakatelaxen. The accent on the eta here. You can see the mark here, a different word. So we go down to verse 22, and apakate lagete. Here we would have a different wording here, you being reconciled second plural as opposed to third singular. Him, Jesus, doing the reconciling, you being reconciled. Here we have P46 and B in agreement again, and we can note that here just quickly with P46. This is, again, Center for the Study of New Testament Manuscripts, a very small text here at the end, a little more difficult to read, but I trust you can follow along with it. And again, these links are available. Apokatalegete, that gamma, eta, tau, epsilon right there. And we can see the same here, apokatalegete. See, that is a different wording than we have in Sinaiticus, which is represented in the text. Appa, the alpha, P omicron, made very small often at the end of a column, apokat a loxen, the xi right there. So this is textual criticism. This is what we're going through, and I want you to enjoy this. As we work through the text, we'll do this throughout the year. I want to pull up for just a moment here a few vocab words, pronounce them for you. I'm not going to pronounce all of them, but I trust throughout the year as I do these videos, you will follow along, pause, repeat after me. It is expected, and we will see this in our chats, that you are able to read Greek, and it doesn't have to be perfect, but you can generally pronounce things. We'd expect that in second year Greek. Apangelo, I announce, proclaim. Apodidomi, ara, ophasis, he ophasis, that's a feminine word, he there. Acri, preposition, until. Baptisma, you're at Midwestern Baptist Seminary, so we better know that one. Deuteros, second. Diakoneo, dierchomai, ekpareuomai. Notice when I pronounce a word, I try to follow the diacritical marks and the accent pointings here. This is an acute and duo above the upsilon and duo. I raise my pitch. Epiginosko. Eremos. Hetoimazo. Rough breathing mark. He. Smooth breathing mark. Etos. Etos here. Well, all the best to you. Looking forward to progressing with you this year.